Mr. Chukokuro, and welcome to episode 4 of the Growthclinicc podcast. On today's show, we have Judge Sisneros, who teaches about everything your dad should have taught you but didn't. And in this episode, we discuss picking the right partner to marry, keeping your marriage healthy in the long run, and making better financial decisions. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Welcome to the show, Judge. Do you mind telling us a bit about where you're from?
I was born in the United States and born and raised there, lived there most of my life. And then 9.5 years ago, we moved to Guatemala and we started a small middle school in the mountains and in a small village of Guatemala.
So what inspired that move?
So my faith inspired that. We are Christians and Christian missionaries. So we really felt like we wanted to kind of live out our faith. So we sold everything that we owned in the United States. We owned a couple of small businesses. We owned our dream home, really. And we sold everything. And in 2012, we moved here so that we could love and really just help the poor and to we ended up starting this school where it's a private Christian middle school. We teach the Bible in the morning, but the rest of the day we teach math, science, and everything else. But it's been an amazing adventure.
Yeah, I'm guessing that must have been very difficult at first.
Absolutely, it was quite an adjustment. I mean, it's obviously. It's a developing country. And so when you move from all of the opportunity of the United States to a country that is barren of opportunity and just riddled with poverty, it was definitely an adjustment.
I'm curious here. How did you convince your wife to actually make that move with you?
No, man, that's actually a good question because um, I actually had visited Guatemala one time. It was just once. I came here for a week with my church. We helped at an orphanage, and at the end of that week, I got home. But during that week, or at the end of that week, I really felt like this is something that I wanted to do, and that my God, was calling me to do. But my wife was not with me, and she had no idea that I was thinking this, and that this would be our life. And so when I got home, I told her about the trip. I remember we were laying in bed and I was just holding her hand. I just remember it so well. It was dark. And I just remember telling her, I really feel like this is what our God is calling us to do, is to sell everything. And listen, man, I had zero intentions of doing this before I left on that trip, like zero. On a chance scale from 1 to 100, it was a 0. And so I told her, this is what I think we should do. And she literally, it was quiet for a second, maybe a couple seconds. And then she literally just said, okay. And that was it. And the next day we told our kids, we had 3 little ones living with us, and we told them that we were going to be moving to Guatemala. Like, that's how instantaneous the decision was. We put our house on the market soon after, and put it up for sale. And then in 7 months, we were boarding a plane to move to rural Guatemala.
Yeah, it's actually very impressive because I believe not every woman supports such decisions right off the bat. So having such a supportive partner in your corner is a huge win.
No, 100%. I knew my wife, and I married her for all kinds of incredible qualities. But one of the qualities that I love her most for is just how passionate she is about living out her faith. And I think whether it's Christians, or it doesn't matter what religion it is or what faith you have, but it's one thing to go to church on Sundays, or one thing to read your book of faith. For us, it's the Bible. But it's another thing to live out that faith, and that's the type of wife that I have and that I married. And so I feel very fortunate, for sure.
Yeah. So were you guys both Christians when you guys got married?
100%, 100%. And I say that with kind of conviction, because I've got 2 older adult sons. One is 18 and one is 20. And as we have talked about future girlfriends and future spouses, as I've talked to them about that, I encourage them. They can make their own decisions, but I encourage them to find someone of similar faith. And what I mean by that is, if it listen, if you're just someone who calls yourself, for example, a Christian, but you don't practice Christianity, then maybe it doesn't matter. But for me or for my sons, they're very strong in their faith. It's very important that they find someone who is also strong in their faith. Otherwise, that's just something that will be an issue at some point. And as they get married, it will be a bigger and bigger issue. So I think anyone that is looking at getting married, I think that what I tell my kids is, make a list. I tell my boys, I've talked to my daughters. My daughters kind of did their own thing before I really had the opportunity to kind of guide them, and they're both doing extremely well. But with my sons specifically, I told them, listen, make a list of who you want in a wife. What are the characteristics of that person? And even go as far as to, do they like to read? Are maybe beauty is important to you, and that's okay because this is a list for you. That doesn't mean that they have to have all of those things on their list, but it is a guide, and it does help you be aware of who you're looking for. And so, but on that list, I think it's important to include non-negotiables. And so there have to be things, and maybe there are and maybe they're not, but I think that you need to be aware of things that are deal killers. And so for me, without a doubt, if my wife wasn't Christian, if I wouldn't date her. Only because I know that in order for me to continue to grow in my faith, and for her, for me to kind of live this, fulfilled life, it would be important that we were on the same page in regards to our faith. And so, as I was dating, I met a girl and was dating her for a while, and turns out, like within a short period of time, I realized, she had some very racial tendencies, and she said some off-color racist things. And as soon as I realized that was obviously for me, that was a deal killer. I just I stopped dating her like immediately. And so I think it's important as young men go out into the world, and young women as well. But as they go out into the world and they're dating, I think it's important to have a guide, know what you're looking for, what is important to you, and but then also make sure that you have some non-negotiables. I think that's important.
Yeah, you just dropped an insane amount of value. So to recap, you said your faith and your non-negotiables. The Guatemala example you gave, for example, if you and your wife didn't have the same faith, it won't have worked. Like the move won't have worked. So yeah, having similar faith is actually important.
Absolutely. If my wife didn't have the same faith and conviction that I had, there is no way I would have ever even talked to her or brought the subject up. But I knew where she was, and I knew where she was before we married. And we've both grown together, and we've both grown forward. You're going to go through a lot of growth and change once you're married, but it's yeah, that conversation never would have happened.
So in your experience, what do you think keeps marriages going in the long run?
Well, I've been married for 23 years, and the first year was absolutely awful for us. I know a lot of people have this kind of year of bliss, and their first year is great. My first year was horrible. It was just hard because we still were getting to know each other, even though we had dated for 9 months, we were engaged for 9 months. But when you live under the same roof, things start to change. You start to see habits and things like that. So the first year was a very hard adjustment. But I will tell you, the first probably 7 years were very difficult. It honestly, we survived. We survived. I call it, like, maybe I'll just title it like the survival years, the beginning of our marriage was hard. I believe what changed everything was when I stopped focusing on, everything that I was doing. I just focused on myself, and what could I bring to the relationship. And I stopped taking score, because at the end of the day, marriage, and this is probably my best advice for people who are thinking about getting married, or married, or who are in a marriage. And that is that marriage is not a 50-50 relationship like a lot of things. Maybe a business partnership might be 50-50, but in a marriage, it really is a 100-100. You need to both be giving everything you've got. And I don't worry about what my wife is giving. I really don't. Like, I wake up in the morning and I think to myself, what can I do for my wife today? How can I love her today? Like, not just a feeling, but how can I actually love her? What can I do for her? And, for me, because I'm a man, and I think a lot of times men can be very competitive, I feel kind of competitive in that I am not going to let her outlove me on any given day, man. I wake up and I'm like, I am not going to let you outlove me. And if she does something, kind, or she says something, encouraging, of course I receive that. And I'm just so, I'm grateful for that. But then I'm like, okay, man, I got to step my game up. And that's just kind of I don't know. It's just a weird, and maybe it's wrong. I don't know, but it's a game that I kind of play for myself, with myself, that is like, I want to stay ahead. I just want to, and what's amazing is that just brings, it just fills the relationship up, and it brings it to another level. I receive so much more. I feel like I'm getting the better end of the deal. And that's even with me just doing all that I can. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I would recommend, man.
Yeah, I feel you. So, from your experience, when do you think is a good time for men to actually get married?
Oh man, first of all, I would say there's no hurry. Like, I understand that if you want to have kids, then maybe, your partner needs to be. I don't even know anymore, to be honest with you. If you want to have your own kids, yeah, you probably want to get married by the time you're 35, because at that point, biologically, I think that would be important. But there's also the possibility of adoption, if biological kids are not possible, or if if you just want to be a parent. I highly recommend adopting. We 3 years ago, we adopted four little ones, four siblings who were stuck in an orphanage here. And we're older, but man, we love it. And so, when to get married is different for everybody. What I tell my sons, is there is no hurry. Like, what's the rush? My recommendation is work on yourself, and when you're ready to get married, then start dating. I'm kind of old school, maybe, I don't know, in that if you're not ready to get married, then you really don't need to be dating. I mean, just, there's so much to do in this world, and so much to take from this life, without just dating for the fun of it. You can hang out with friends. You can hang out with friends who are girls. You can, you can better yourself as a person. You can grow yourself physically. You can grow yourself mentally. You can grow a side business. You can change careers. There's so much you can do. So I would recommend getting married when you're ready, because there's just no number. I recently talked to a guy who, he got married like at 50 years old. That's a long time to wait, but he's completely happy, and it's been a great marriage. And so, yeah, man, I don't think there's a number for sure. And I think that it's important for men and women. But when I'm on Twitter, and I really try to reach out to young men, a lot of young men who were kind of, wandering, and maybe didn't have a lot of, financial advice as well, but fatherly advice about, relationships, and about finances and things like that. So I do speak to men a lot, and my message to young men is there is no hurry, and when you're ready, that's great, but there's no rush. Take your time.
What was your aha moment? When did you realize you wanted to get married?
Um, I probably I don't think I had made a decision like, oh, it's time for me to get married. I think what happened was honestly is I didn't my father is I have a great dad. He's still around. He was just here in Guatemala visiting us. He and my mom, they've been married for, I don't know, 56 years, something like that. And, but he never gave me any real advice. He's a good guy. He worked really hard for our family. I love him to death, but he never really gave me any advice. So I think when I got married, it was different in that I really had no direction. So I was just dating girls and I didn't, I just, when I found one that I liked, and that met my non-negotiables, I kind of pulled the trigger. But I wouldn't recommend doing necessarily what I did. Like I said, the first 7 years were really, really tough. So when would you know? I think that you would know is when you're I don't know. I think you're ready to kind of have a partner, have someone to kind of go through this life with. I think that you will be financially ready. I think that's important. I know that's superficial, but I think that's important. I think you will be um, just emotionally ready, which is probably the most important thing. If you can't be alone, you're not ready. And so I think if you can spend, six months, a year, 2 years alone, kind of just you doing you and working on yourself, at the end of that, you're probably a lot closer and you're probably more ready. But you will meet somebody at some point, and I think you'll know. So that's difficult for me to answer to know individually. Everybody is so different, and everybody has so much, different things that they need to work on. So
It's all subjective.
absolutely.
You spoke about your dad just now. Would you mind telling us a bit about your childhood?
Yeah, I think I had a really great childhood, to be honest with you. I feel my dad was an outdoorsman, and so he did teach me, how to fish and go hiking and camping, and on the weekends, we often did a lot of outdoor activities, which really instilled in me this incredible passion for adventure and outdoors. I'm looking out my window right now, and it's just incredible. We live in the mountains of Guatemala. It's beautiful. I'm going to be my son is flying in today, actually, from the United States. He was visiting. He traveled to Serbia and Slovenia, and he flew into New York last night, and he's flying here to Guatemala today. And we are going to be going on a zip line kind of a excursion where you have this extreme zip line, except that you spend the night in hammocks on the zip line, suspended. I don't even know how high in the air. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's just that my father instilled in me, I think, the sense of adventure. So like I said, I think I had a good childhood. I think my dad was a great dad, but he just gave me zero advice about anything. And so I think that if you're going to have kids, I think it's important to recognize that you should help guide them. That doesn't mean they have to take your advice, but help guide them down the road and give them, share your wisdom, share your lessons, share your failures with them so that they can kind of miss some of those things. They'll have their own lessons along the way, but you can help them stay out of maybe the bigger troubles. My dad never taught me about finances, money, investing, finding a job, creating additional streams of income. He never taught me anything about relationships. He didn't, there was just, I feel like there's health, exercise, working out. I mean, so I can look at all the things he didn't teach me, but the reality is, I did have a good life, and he worked very hard so that I was able to participate in, sports. I was on the ski team, and that's expensive. Where I grew up in Colorado, in the United States, there's a ski area, a lot of snow, and so one of our sports teams is a ski team, and it was expensive, and so my dad provided for a lot. He just wasn't there with, fatherly advice. And I think a lot of dads, I don't blame him either. I think a lot of dads just don't know. A lot of dads, my dad didn't grow up. He grew up with a dad who was exactly the same. He worked. My grandfather worked really hard. He worked in the mines, like literally going down tunnels, and he provided for his family. But he wasn't. He didn't impart a lot of advice to my father, and so I think that we can break some of those bad patterns, and I think that as men, as fathers, we owe it to our families, we owe it to our kids to break some of those bad patterns, bad behaviors, and we can teach them what we know, and you do the best you can with the information you have.
Yeah, I agree. So you were speaking about mistakes earlier. What do you think are some common mistakes people make in their 20s?
Wow. I think for sure, I think people make relationship mistakes. I think that we're generally, as human beings, I think we're very self-centered. And so the quicker that you can get your eyes off of yourself and onto other people, to be empathetic, to be kind, to be helpful, to help them, I think that that's important. But that takes a lot of self-awareness, and it takes a lot of intention. So the sooner that you can get, your eyes off yourself, I think that that's important. That will help in all of your relationships. I think that people can make massive financial mistakes early on in their life by spending money on a bunch of crap that they really just don't need. So I think it's important to, and I say this again to young people, is you have so much massive opportunity that I don't have. For example, I'm 55 years old. I can invest, and I do, but those investments aren't going to look anything like yours. If you stop spending money, if you can figure out as a single person to save half of your money, so you just, as soon as you get that money, you're like, okay, half this is mine and half is not. Half is my future. And so if you can, I don't know what's available around the world, but I know that in the United States, you can invest in the stock market. You can invest in different index funds and retirement accounts. And so I'm guessing there are other opportunities around the world that are similar. In the United States, you should be investing. If you can invest half your income into the stock market through something very easy, through index funds, do it automatically. If you can, anybody can invest in cryptocurrencies. I wouldn't recommend investing a ton. Like, that's all very personal. I probably have invested too much in relation to the rest of my investments. I need to probably invest. I need to catch up, I guess is what I'm saying. I need to invest more in the stock market. Investing in real estate, I think is amazing. So there's a lot of opportunities to invest. But what I find is people would rather go on vacations. They would rather upgrade their iPhones, every year. They'd rather, spend money on, Netflix and all this stuff. That doesn't mean you can't do that. All I'm saying is you got to decide what's important. And you have this, before you're 30 years old, you have this incredible opportunity to create a bunch of wealth down the road. So, for example, I don't know the exact numbers. I actually have a website on my in my tabs that I can figure this out. So if I want to go spend, for example, say $100 on a pair of shoes, if I can check very easily what that $100 actually means. So if I were to invest that $100 into just something that's maybe making 8% for 40 years or 30 years or 20 years, you can see that that $100 is actually, it could be 300 or 500 or $1,000, depending on what kind, how the investment does, depending on how long you leave it in. But it's never $100. That $100 It's as soon as you buy the shoes, you're done. Your money is dead. It's no longer working for you, and it's worth zero. It's only worth the comfort or the pride of you having those shoes. But if you invest that $100, it's going to be worth $2, $3, $4, $500 down the road. So the way I think of my purchases is, all right, am I willing to pay $500 for these shoes? Because I'll figure out, okay, if I leave it in there for 20 years at this interest rate, and I might look at some of the returns on some of my investments and kind of use that as a guide. No, I'm not going to buy a pair of shoes for $500. That's stupid. So I think financial mistakes, relationship mistakes, yeah, I don't know. I think those are two probably big mistakes that people could avoid.
And that true question is, being in your 20s now compared to being in your 20s something years ago when you were in your 20s, which one do you think is easier?
No, oh my gosh, bro. Oh my gosh, I think it's easier to be in your 20s now. There is so much worldwide opportunity. Listen, it all depends on what you focus on. And so I think there's probably people my age who look and they, oh my gosh, I wish, we had it so good back in the 20s. It's so hard now. Or maybe there's people who are in their 20s now who are like, man, it's just harder now than it was. And I just absolutely feel like if you're in your 20s now, there is so much ridiculous opportunity to build a side income online, to invest money easier. Like you could never invest the way you can invest now. You can just literally go online and make your first investment for $10. Just do it. Just give it a shot. Go buy some crypto for, buy some Bitcoin for 20, 30, $50. Just do it. Just be an investor and start. You couldn't do that when I was in my 20s. Holy crap. I literally, there was no internet when I was in my 20s, bro. Like you and I couldn't do this in our wildest dreams. This was like a sci-fi movie, what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So
Well,
no. Listen, man, don't let, if anybody says ever that, it's, life is hard right now in your 20s and, no, it has never been easier. There's never, ever, ever, ever been so much opportunity. I know so many young people in their 20s. I know a guy in Guatemala. He's from Guatemala in his 20s who's probably, earning $50,000 a month, 20, I don't know. It's a lot of money from Guatemala, like with his freaking computer.
yeah,
So no, man.
but
I
don't you think the many opportunities is kind of a problem because it takes away your focus? I mean, there's a lot of things to do now. On Twitter, there's the reselling side, there's crypto, there's affiliate marketing, there's ghostwriting, there's agency. So you have people going from one business to another every month. They keep changing. So it's like it's good. There's so many opportunities, but it's harder to focus now because of many opportunities, don't you think?
I don't, man. Are there a lot of opportunities? Absolutely. I think that you have to just decide, like, what are you going to do? And so, I help people and through coaching. And so I always coach people to try different things. You are not stuck with, so for example, you might try affiliate marketing for 30 or 60 days. Don't and see how it goes for you. Put all your effort into it. Maybe you're going to do, cryptocurrency. Maybe you're going to do, there's obviously a lot of opportunity all around. I started my Twitter page 9.5 months ago. Where are we? Yeah, just over 9.5 months ago. And when I started, I had no idea how I would monetize it. I had no idea how it would grow, how fast to grow, or anything like that. I didn't, like everybody, like just like you don't know what you're doing until you get started. So that's really the key.
Yeah.
Like that's really the key, is just get started. Like get moving. And then at some point, I started out honestly hoping that I would be able to earn a side income doing affiliate marketing. And it didn't take me long to realize that I don't want to be that guy. We've all seen them where they're pumping, their affiliate links all day on Twitter, and it's just not me. It's not who I wanted to be. And so you just keep plugging along. And yeah, 2022 is going to be pretty crazy, insane. I've grown my page to over 17,000, almost 18,000, and now I'm coaching, and I'm editing a book that will be published in January about our lives here over the last 9 years in Guatemala, in the villages of Guatemala. I am starting a cohort, most likely in January, if not for sure in February. And in March, I am releasing my first series, March 9th, my 1-year anniversary on Twitter. I am releasing my first series of NFTs. Dude, I am 55 years old. And so if I can do it, holy crap, like, my goodness, I don't even like this whole, like I said, man, there was no internet when I was in high school. There weren't computers when I was going to high school, man. Like, I remember a computer, an Apple computer. Apple donated a bunch of computers to schools. That was kind of just their way of getting out into the world in the beginning. And our school had like 1 or 2 Apple computers in the library. And I was like, wow, like, and it was really just it was just basically a word processor. It was really like, it wasn't connected to the internet. That wouldn't come for years, 5-10 years after. So, listen, is it overwhelming? Yeah. Start and figure out along the way what your passion is. I did not know what my niche would be, and I didn't know what my passion would be until I was at 8,000. I had 8,000 followers that I grew along the way trying to kind of find my voice. But as soon as I found my voice, I went from 8,000 to like 13,000 within 45 days. I mean, just boom, just really went quick. And so I think it's the key is, if you don't take anything else from that, take this away. Just get started, because most people don't, to be honest with you.
Yeah, makes sense. Like this year, 2021, okay, last year, one thing I learned about the year was focus, because on social media, everyone is excited about what is giving them money. The guy reselling product on Amazon is excited about making 10K a month, 20K a month in revenue. The guy doing crypto is excited about the next coin he bought. The guy doing the copywriter is excited. The affiliate marketer is excited. Everyone is excited and pushing what they're selling. So you now, on the other hand, doing something totally unrelated. You see these people and start to ask yourself if you're doing the right thing, if you're on the right path. So this is something I learned in 2021. And if you can give that one thing 6 months to 1 year, you start to see changes. And growing my Twitter taught me that.
Yeah, I think I could not agree more. I think that focus is massively important. I think it's also incredibly important to make, and it's hard. This is the hardest part. I think it's easier to be focused than it is to stop comparing yourself. Because when you compare yourself, that's when you get bummed out. Like, you see people, how are they growing so fast? Their tweets
Yeah.
suck. I don't understand. Like, my tweets are better than that. What's going on?
Yeah.
And so, and like you said, they're making money. How are they making money? They have 1,500 followers and they just made $1,000. I don't understand it, And so play your own game. My own game, I originally came in and I thought, I'm going to monetize when I hit 1,000. I could probably do some affiliate marketing at 1,000. And then I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to build an audience. So I'm going to monetize at 5,000. Still did not monetize at 5,000. And I'm like, 10,000 is like the magic number, especially when at 8,000, I just started clicking. I knew what my audience was. I was feeding them everything that they wanted to see. Plus, I loved the niche I was in, which is basically just kind of advice from a 55-year-old to people to help you kind of navigate life, right? Things that your father didn't teach you that he should have, I'm going to help you with. That's my niche, right? But at 10,000, didn't monetize. Now, granted, along the way, I've made affiliate sales because I've taken courses and people have asked, and I've made money along the way. But the real money is, for me, was when I started doing what I love, which is coaching people, helping people grow their Twitter page, helping people navigate through relationships, helping people, just get healthy, be in the very best shape mentally, physically, spiritually that they can be. So that was thing one. But the reality is, like I said, 2022 is when it just all has come together, and I'm at 17,000. My goal is really to get to like in my head, I'll be at 100,000. I don't know when, but for sure in 2022, I would say my goal is probably 50,000. Like I see that as possible. If I can get to 50,000, I just I don't even know how if you have 50,000 people who are engaged, and I think that's important. You have to have an audience or a community who is engaged and believes in you, they trust you. Dude, just think about it. 50,000 people, I don't see how you're not, making anywhere between $10,000 and $20,000 a month. I just don't even see how that's possible that you can't make that amount of money. And that's in short order. Like, dude, I haven't even been on a year. I've been on like 9.5 months. March 9th was the first tweet I ever put out there. So, like I said, man, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Twitter is very necessary to have a core message and stick to it. And once you can do that, yeah, you're free to talk about other things, but you have to stick to your core message, because this way people will still come back to you and know you as, oh, the guy who talked about this, the guy who talked about that. That is what will help you in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if you're going to kind of maybe test different things and try different things, they do have to have some relation.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking about crypto and then you're talking about, something completely, almost anything else, you're going to lose. Like if you're going to go down the crypto road, you better be pretty sure that that's what you love. You love to write about it. You love to learn about it. But, for example, with me, it's really been, everything's kind of related to positivity, helping people, just good advice. And when I reached 8,000 did I realize, wait a minute, I'm 55 years old. Like I have some things that I could share with people so that they don't fall into these traps. But it was all related to that type of thing, advice and things like that.
Speaking of being 55 years old, what was your mood? Why did you decide to start a Twitter account? Like, wasn't it hard to adapt? How was it? What was it like when you had 0 followers?
Yeah, it's murder. It's yeah, listen, the first 100 is, matter of fact, I think I have my numbers here. I looked this up for somebody the other day, but the first 100 is really tough because you and I know that we're literally just tweeting to a wall. And so it was helpful that I had somebody that kind of gave me some advice, and I, they coached me through those that first 1,000. They coached me all the way to 1,000, and that was important. So I started on March 9th. By April 2nd, so within about a month, I had 200 followers. April 16th, 400. April 19th, 500. April 30th, 800. And so on May 6th, so in 2 months, it took me to reach 1,000. And I was able to do that, I believe, because I focused on commenting on other accounts, and I only tweeted one time a day, once a day. I wrote like 10 tweets. My coach said, listen, write 10 tweets a day and post your best one. And so I did that. And so I always had a bunch of tweets that I could go in and tweak and reuse at some point. But then the rest of the time was really just to, I spent all my time commenting on bigger accounts that were similar to me, that had my audience. And that gave people the opportunity to go to my timeline and see, wow, that's good stuff. He might not have a lot of engagement, but I really like what he tweets. And so I started picking up followers that way. But I spent almost all my time, I probably commented 15 to 20 times per day on other accounts. but I only posted on my account once. But that first 1,000, the first 100 is brutal, but the first 1,000, it takes a while. But now here I am, 9.5 months later at 17,500. I met a guy, he got to 1,000 before I did, and we were in an engagement group together. But he got off Twitter for a couple of months. And when he came back, he's right now, I think he's at about, I don't know, 2,000, something like that. But we started at almost identically the same time. Here's the trick to Twitter. You ready? It's literally just being consistent. So it's just one day after the other, show up, comment on 10 to 20 accounts, write one, now I write more tweets. Now I write, my goal is to write 4 a day, and I generally write 4 a day. Some days like today, I think I've already posted a couple of times. So I might write 5 or 6 today because it's New Year's, but for the most part, just show up, man. Just be consistent. Like, believe in yourself, believe in the process, and be consistent.
Yeah. So aside Twitter, do you plan on expanding? Do you plan on going on other platforms to share the message?
I don't think so. Not right now. I really like. I don't want to. I don't know what the word is, but I don't want to diffuse my focus. I actually did try to hop on to Instagram, and basically just reposting my tweets onto Instagram. And there's a number of influencers who are doing that, and they're doing really well. But I really feel like there's so much opportunity on Twitter. I really don't need to expand into something else, because growing another platform at the same time is very hard. I think that if I were at their levels, like they're at 30, 40,000 followers, maybe at that point I might consider it, but I don't think so, man. Like, here's some more advice for young people is, what is enough for you? And because if you don't know what enough is, maybe it's $1,000 a month, maybe it's 5,000, 10,000, I don't know, whatever your enough is. Don't say, well, I want to make as much as I can, because guess what? You'll never be satisfied, and you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
But if it's 1,000 or 5,000, when you get there, you've arrived to that spot. And if you want to increase your goals, that's great. But you've got this place where it's like, so for me, I know what my enough is. I have my wife, I talk to my wife about my goals. We know what enough for us is on this side business, because if I want to expand into Instagram or, other platforms, TikTok or whatever, it's going to take away from the things that are most important to me, which is my wife, my family, my faith. And so you have to decide what's more important. Your family, like, there's some people who are killing it. I know people who are making $100,000 a month from their Twitter account. That's stupid money, but I guarantee you they're like, they're running 24/7. They're giving up something for that. Listen, I'm not judging. If they want to do that, that's fine. And I guarantee you there's people, they're making a lot more than that. And maybe they're not married, or maybe other things aren't important to them, but I know what is important to me. I know what my enough is. And I think those are things that you need to be aware of. And it's going to be different for everyone. And I have no judgment on that. It's all, you get to decide. But I would recommend that you pay attention and be self-aware. What is enough and what is important to you? My faith, my family, including obviously my wife and my kids. That's it. That's the most important thing. So I'm not going to make more money just so at the expense of my family.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, because your family makes making money better. When you have love, I don't know how to explain it, but when there's love, you enjoy your money better, if that makes sense. I think the key to happiness is putting other people first, because if you're all about making money, making 200K a month, 300K a month, there will be something missing. These are the people who will be all about, oh, I'm trying to find happiness, because there's something missing in them. They've put money above love, because I feel like in the end, everything is about love. It's all about love. No matter how advanced technology goes. It's all about love. And if you can find the balance, you've won the game of life. So yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. I really, I mean, I absolutely believe that that's the key is about loving and loving people, right? Because there's a lot of people who love things, but I really believe that. I think that's the most important thing.
All right. So to round up, there's a tweet you wrote some time ago. I think I saw it last week or something, where you said sell your gaming system. You don't. I, I need you to talk about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so here's the thing. I've got like I said, I've got two adult kids. I've got an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old. And my 18-year-old is very aware, man. Like he knows how I feel. He loves Fortnite and he plays every day, but he's smart. Like he plays like literally like an hour and a half a day. He doesn't, well, we wouldn't allow him to because he still lives with us, but he's not going to play 8 hours a day. He wouldn't anyway. But he also knows that when he goes off to school next year, next August, he knows he's going to sell his gaming system. That's his decision. And the reason you do that is because I think that's, listen, I know a lot of people who are in their 20s and 30s who are making excuses to play their video games. If you are content with your life right now, I'm not talking to you. Keep your video game. Like seriously, if you are content, if you've got a good job, good relationship, and you can play 4 or 5, 6 hours a day, go for it. I have no problem with that. If you're content with your life, keep your gaming system. But what I'm not cool with is the person who's like, man, I can't get ahead. There's not enough time in the day. I want to start another get another stream of income somehow. I want to start a side business. I want to travel. I want to, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If you're not content with your life, if you think that there is more out there, first of all, there is more out there. There's more to life. Then sell the gaming system. Don't just put it in the closet. Like sell it. I literally, my last coaching client, I'm not even kidding you, man. A guy named John. He's like, man, I want to start a side business. I want to have relationships. Like, I'm not in a relationship with a girl right now. We talked through a lot of that stuff. He says, but gaming is important to him. I'm like, well, listen, what's more important? Making more money. He wants to start a side business and having relationships or your gaming system. And of course he's like, well, for sure, the relationships and making more money. I'm like, well, why don't you get rid of it? And he's like, well, why don't I just like loan it to a friend for a while or whatever? I'm like, listen, sell the gaming system, take the $300-400, put it into an investment and be done with it. Burn your bridges. And I guarantee you, in 1 year, it's like it's a dopamine hit. Like listen, Fortnite, they're geniuses in producing dopamine in young people, and sometimes not even young people. And so that's all it is. It's just a dopamine hit. Get a dopamine hit from good relationships. Get a dopamine hit from your investments growing. Get a dopamine hit from providing a service to people that makes them better. Like, man, there is no better dopamine hit for me than helping people get on track and get a 30, 60, 90-day plan of action together that I know is going to just propel them so far into the future and into so much success. That is my dopamine hit. Like, I love that, man.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, George, we've come to the end of the show. Once again, I want to thank you for being on my podcast and sharing your wisdom. So, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, thank you so much, man. It has been a pleasure. I'm really glad that you invited me. I'm very humbled that you invited me onto your podcast. And so I'm glad I'm here. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, the best place, the easiest place is really just on Twitter. And I think you'll probably put a link to my Twitter page in the show notes, but it's at 1G Cisneros, spelled S as in Sam, Isneros. It's kind of hard to sound out and spell. So just look for a link maybe in the show notes, but it's at 1G Cisneros. And yeah, on Twitter, that's the best place to get a hold of me, man.
All right, man. Thank you for coming. Have a nice day.
Oh my gosh. You too.
And happy New Year.
Yeah, man. Crush it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming this far. My name is Tochko Crow. Find me on Twitter at Growthclinic. Growthclinic with 2 C's at the end. Or check my website at tochkocrow.com.